Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kim Meijer. I'm with the Ames marketing team, and I'd like to welcome you today to our webinar about prescriptive analytics, with the goal to help you to get a better understanding of this topic in just 20 minutes. We will be discussing what prescriptive analytics is, why companies can use it, why you should consider adapting to it now, what is our approach at Ames, and we will offer you some cases of companies leading the way. Before we get started, let me cover just a few housekeeping details. Your phone lines will be complete presentation, and you can submit your questions using the Q&A tab in the control panel during the presentation, or you can save them for the end. It's my pleasure today to welcome our presenter, Marcel Mauritz, our VP Supply Chain. Marcel has a lot of field experience in logistics and supply chain operations across Europe. In addition, he holds a PhD in supply chain network design and operations research. With his excellent tracking record of working closely with our customers, partners, and research organizations to help companies understand and benefit from prescriptive analytics, Marcel is the perfect guy for the job today, and I'm sure you are in good hands. We would like to start with a question poll. We are curious to hear a little from you. So I will open a poll, and the poll today is, what is your current take on prescriptive analytics? You can choose from the options. These are old ideas parading as new ones. If you feel this is a new method of working, choose that option. And if you just don't know yet, that's also fine. Please let us know by using the last option. I will give you a few more seconds to submit your answer. All right, we see a lot of questions coming in. Very nice. I will close the poll, and I will share the results with you. So, well, this is very nice insight. There are a lot of people that have not very much experience with this topic yet, and they're very curious to find out. So with this very nice insight, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Marcel.
Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's indeed really interesting what the outcome is of the poll. And I can say you're all right. We will share with you, give you a highlight of what prescriptive analytics is, but also the people who said, well, it's actually, as we say in Dutch, old wine in new bags. They are partly right as well. And I'll also explain what the new part is. Optimization, as it was called already like 30 years ago, or 40 years ago maybe, mathematical optimization, is already pretty old. And it was put into the whole perspective of BI to analytics in 2007 by Thomas Davenport in his excellent book, Competing on Analytics. He was really one of the front runners in adopting analytics and showing the way forward. And he positioned it at the top of the analytics ladder, saying, well, at the basis there's reporting and there's queries, there's alerts. That's what we call these days business intelligence, BI. And on top of that, that's where you have analytics with statistical analysis, forecasting, which is now pretty close to predictive modeling. That's also forecasting, and then optimization. What he defined as what is the best that can happen. Whereas something like predictive is what will next happen or what might happen next. After that, a couple of other people came and indicated and gave their perspective on what optimization is. It's still called optimization. Oliver White, for example, in 2013 came to the conclusion and said, well, hey, in essence, optimization answers questions, and they answer the specific question, what actions do I need to take to achieve my desired goal? And that's actually really true. It answers the question. It doesn't just give insight, it actually gives answers. And to summarize this all, Gartner recently, like 2 years ago, made this more concise, more easy to access overview of analytics, starting with descriptive, basically what happened. It's reporting, it's what we used to call BI. Then diagnostic, it's understanding, well, why did that happen? We had a dip in sales, what happened? How come? That's where you do the correlations as well. Like, okay, did the sales drop because of the bad weather or something like that? Then the predictive part. So what will happen? Looking at the history and then making a statistical forecast based on that. And they too, even though it's on the bottom, see as the highest level of analytics, prescriptive analytics. And prescriptive is the word they coined, and that's now being more and more adopted in the market, in the industry. And it actually prescribes you what is your best set of actions. What should you do in order to achieve your objectives, to achieve your goal? What you also see is that power of analytics gets higher and the amount of human input needed to do the analysis is lower, because prescriptive analytics, in particular when it's powered by optimization, will go through all different options that there are and find the best option for you given your question, given your situation. Well, that's the prescriptive part. Then there are the different ways how you can work with prescriptive analytics. A very basic way is in Excel. It's very one-on-one. It's the most used technology in companies, but it's very one-on-one. It's difficult to really disperse it throughout the enterprise. Then the second wave of technologies are best-of-breed softwares like, for example, LlamaSoft and SAP APO. Really good pieces of software with a lot of intelligence and pre-configured processes in there. It allows you relatively quick implementation, at least that's the idea behind it. And it has sometimes some built-in prescriptive analytics capabilities. It also has its disadvantages because you have to fit your process to their built-in technologies, to their built-in process. You have to adapt your company to their embedded way of working. The highest level, the most flexible form of applying prescriptive analytics is through a modeling environment. A modeling environment like Ames, for example, allows you to fully capture all aspects of your business and to make it available not only for analysts, but it really helps to democratize the abilities of prescriptive analytics and to empower every decision maker wherever in your organization to make use of prescriptive analytics in their decision support. It's quick to use, we'll get to that later, and it fits wonderfully with ideas like Lean Startup, building a small application really quickly, learn with it, and then grow as you go. Well, why are companies using it? Why do they say, well, hey, this sounds interesting, or I'm struggling with this? What are the struggles that companies are dealing with that lead them to making the next step and adopt prescriptive analytics? For one, there are situations where people recognize that every week they are struggling with the same, for example, production scheduling challenge, or with the same, how do we allocate our promotional budget challenge. And it's just really difficult to get through because there are so many aspects to take into account how to do that best. And if you're frustrated with that, that's the ideal situation to adopt prescriptive analytics, because that will help you cut through all that complexity and provide you answers. Another situation that we meet a lot is that when people say, well, hey, our operation is pretty okay, and the processes are relatively okay, it's relatively stable, but I just see a lot of room for improvement. If only I could do my store replenishment in a much smarter way, in a less rigid way, but really look case by case, day by day at what products do I still have available, which stores are selling them best, which stores are cheapest to deliver. So what combination of replenishment of product to stores gives me the highest revenue or the highest margin? If only I could do that, then I would make more profit or would make more revenue. So if you are limited by your current technology, that's an ideal way to say, I would like to adopt prescriptive analytics. And the third area we come across is when people simply feel that they are stuck. They know how to improve, their process, or how to deal with complexities in their planning. They know what the official way forward is within the company, like create a project proposal, make an investment, but they also know that it's probably going to cost like 3 million euros, take 2 years to implement, a lot of testing, and they want something now. You don't want to wait. You don't have the time for all that. The market changes fast. So if you want to move fast, prescriptive analytics is the way to go. Within a couple of months, you are live. You have your solution there, and from then on, you can start improving it. Now, why would you want to do that now and not wait for next year or the year after? Or most important reason is given by a study by Bain Company, and that is that companies who apply advanced analytics, of which prescriptive analytics is the most prominent one, companies who adopt that make better decisions and make them faster. Now, what is better and what is faster? Faster is simple. They just make decisions 5 times faster than the average other company. Just imagine that. But better decisions is even more valuable, because what a better decision means is that you make certain assumptions about what happens if you make a decision, and then the actual reality after you implement the decision is identical to your assumptions. It really happens. Your business case that you assume really works out in the way you expected it. And that happens 3 times more often with companies who adopt prescriptive analytics than with companies who don't do that. And just imagine what it means in not having to rework all decisions that you made in the past that didn't work out fully to expectation. Just all the decisions you make work out really well. That isn't a very compelling reason to start now. One slide I would like to share with you about what's Ames' view on this. What is the Ames approach? As I said earlier, Ames is a technology that allows you to model your specific planning or decision support situation, all the aspects, all the data, all the constraints, your objectives, and do that in a really agile and flexible way. One of the things we do, for example, that allows you to do is to build a proof of concept within 2 days. So you start with a problem, and 2 days later you have already a first preliminary application live, actually helping you in your decision support. Turning that into a full-blown application that you can use to roll out might take another 2 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe a couple of months, but it's relatively short. And that is what we advocate and what our technology helps you to do. And once you've built those applications, you can easily deploy them via our cloud platform. You can build like sourcing applications or production scheduling applications, S&OP applications, supply chain network design applications, all sorts of applications you publish there and make available to people who need them within your company. Let's look at a few examples. Let's look at how people actually used prescriptive analytics. What's their story? Take, for example, a metals company in Europe. One of the things they struggled with every week was the purchasing process. It's quite difficult to make the right mix of purchasing the raw material for a metal company like copper or aluminum. You really have to look at the specific composition, the specific quality level, the specific ingredients of the quality of the raw material that you purchase. There's a lot of price difference. There's the transport cost you have to take into account. The batch size, so how much inventory do you take versus how big a transport you purchase every time. And what really complicates it is that out of their own production process typically comes a flow of scrap material. And that scrap material also has different composition and different quality levels every time. So it's a relatively simple question, like what do we purchase where? But it's about a lot of money. They build a small application. It's 1 or 2 people using it once a week, but it saves them 10 million every year. Talking about high impact. This is the total other end of the spectrum. It's a very big company. It's a huge application. A relatively simple process. Again, if you look at it from 30,000 feet, it's about meat production. This company manages the whole value chain from cattle in the field to a steak in a consumer package in the supermarket. What makes it complicated is the scale by which they do it. They do it worldwide, 54 plants. They deliver to over 100 different countries, each having really different requirements on how it is produced. Every plant has its own capabilities and specifications. There are a lot of steps involved in the whole process, and every step has its own cost and its own lead time, its own capabilities, its own specifications. And then there's the whole aspect of taxation, legislation around that, which makes it really complicated. They struggled with that for years, built a huge Ames application, actually 2, and the result of that is that the company as a whole, within 1 year, upped their company profit by 3%. So that's on the other really big application. This is yet another example, the third of the 4 examples that I will give. This is a high-tech company, and they knew what they wanted to do. They basically had technology available that might be able to do that, but it would take them years and years and a lot of money to do it. And they didn't want to take the years, and they didn't want to spend the money. They needed it quick. So within half a year, they developed a multi-echelon inventory planning and optimization app that not only managed the inventory within their own boundaries, within their own authorization, but also the inventory of their third-party distributors, their national distributors that they work with. So it's actually an end-to-end visibility and supply chain planning tool, and it generates every week an advice, a purchase advice for each of the distributors to suggest them what's the best way to purchase and the best product and the best quantity. What this delivers to everybody in that whole value chain is a much healthier inventory composition and a very high end-to-end visibility from demand to production within their supply chain. The last option, the last example I will give is not in the supply chain field. This is on the marketing side. A huge USA grocery retailer, a couple of thousand stores. It's about their promotional budget. They have obviously a pretty large promotional budget, and they were challenged with how to spend that best. Advertisement, discounts, displays in stores, use the budget of vendors, use our own budget, what stores, what product, what moment in time, and how does that impact the product portfolio. They now have a tool, they built that in Ames, they now have a tool that allows them to play with that, gives them one source of truth, but also every time suggestions, what's the best way to spend my promotional budget. And it's with that that we're at the end of this webinar. Typically at the end of a webinar, at least if I participate, if I join a webinar, I'm like, okay, so what's this for me? What can I do with this? If you have the same question and you think, hey, what can I do with this? We offer you this easy way out. If you think you might have somewhere in your organization, your process, some room for improvement, where you think, hey, maybe I can use this, but you don't know, and you have limited time to explore it all yourself. But you are intrigued by, hey, if I can solve this within 2 months and just really quickly, that would be awesome. How can you value your idea? We can help you with that. If you share your challenge in just a few lines, and you email it to challenge@ames.com, we will respond within 24 hours indicating whether Ames or prescriptive analytics in general is a way forward, if it really helps, what time frame you should think about, and roughly what cost indication you should think about. And we're there to help. So it was a pleasure, and if you have any questions, we're here.
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. So this was our part of the presentation, Prescriptive Analytics in 20 minutes. So as Marcel indicated, we come to our Q&A part of the webinar. So we'll take as many questions as time allows. So if you have a question for Marcel, you can submit your questions using the Q&A tab in the control panel right now. So yeah, there are some nice questions coming in. Marcel will take them one by one.
I think the first question is already an interesting one. It says, my experience with prescriptive analytics, the main challenge is that prescriptive model sometimes seems like a black box. That's so true. And it is difficult to get the why and input correlations out of the prescriptive model output, and then the buy-in deteriorates. How do you solve that? Spot on. That's a really good question. And what we really try to do with our technology is to turn that black box in what we call a glass box. You can really easily open up the application and show everybody who has interest in this, who wants to understand, like, hey, this is the way it works. These are the constraints that are in there. These are the objectives. These are the cost elements that are involved in the whole evaluation. And that's the way we typically do it. And another way is start small so that you understand the outcome of the model, and then step by step gradually make it bigger and make it more complicated, but that at every step people will understand. If you like to know more, just reach out. But this would be my question for now.
Yeah, so there are many questions coming in for Marcel. Thank you very much for that. Shall we move on to the question to how do you see the link between predictive analytics, for example, machine learning, and prescriptive analytics?
Yeah, that's the same person who asks it. Interesting, yeah. How do you see the link between predictive and prescriptive? Well, actually, the predictive is often used as an input for prescriptive. So you make a forecast, for example, of your demand. That's the most simple example, or from whatever product will be available in the market, of raw material or the pricing, and that will be input to your prescriptive analytics model. Machine learning is, well, you put it in between brackets, that's a very specific aspect. That's basically the automation of the prescriptive analytics. To more automatically go through the whole process and take out the human interaction altogether. Next question, what solvers do you use to do optimization? We have connections with about 15 or 18 different solvers that are available on the market. Basically all well-known, well-tested solvers we have connections with. You can find the complete list on our website, ames.com. And again, if you've got more questions, more specific question, whether your particular solver is included, we're always there to help. Another question is, could you please repeat the difference between decision and action? Yeah, that's a good one. We discuss about that internally as well. And actually, the thing is, you make a decision to do a couple of actions. So for example, you make the decision to replenish a certain quantity to each of your different stores. There are a bazillion options to do the replenishment, do all in one go, or a little bit, or a lot, or, you know, you can imagine there's a lot of different actions possible. To compare these all, use prescriptive analytics to give you the best one, supporting your objective in the best way, and then your decision is, this is what I'm going to do, and then you know what you're going to do. Let me see, there's more questions. Do you think these challenges can be solved with machine learning, which is the latest fashion all big companies are talking about? I think machine learning is really promising, and some companies are going really fast with that in very specific areas. Google, for example, and Apple are working on that, Microsoft, but it's also still very much embryonic innovation status. I don't see any applications yet, at least in in business planning and business optimization. Maybe at some point we will get there. Feeling in the market and amongst analysts is that's like at least 10 years ahead from now. That's an interesting one. The next question, sales and operations planning versus descriptive analytics, competitor or friend? Intriguing question. I would almost say sales and operations planning often uses now descriptive analytics, like what is the situation, what have we sold, what is the demand that we know there is, and then there's a lot of manual work going on and a lot of Fingerspitzengefühl and I think there's a lot of room for improvement there using prescriptive analytics to actually create the best possible supply plan given your demand scenario, or even better, put in 100 different demand scenarios in your system and find the most profitable combination of your supply scenario and your demand scenarios.
Yeah, so there are many more questions coming in. Thank you again for that. What I would suggest is that we do 2 last questions, and then the other questions that we are not able to address, we will answer you in person by email. So there was a question coming in, is usage of your cloud obligatory, or can it run locally?
Yeah, question to that is both. Well, both. It's not both. You can use cloud and you can run it locally, so it's not obligatory to use either of them. We offer both. So that too we try to make really easy. Yeah, there's one other question about how does Ames compare to Spss and Statistica, and whether Ames software is comparable to these. They are only partly overlapping, very partly. Spss and Statistica, as I know them, are very strong on the statistical analysis, on correlations, on predictive analytics or forecasting, and are very much focused on empowering the individual analyst. Ames focuses more on prescriptive analytics, mathematical optimization as the core engine. We also do statistical and forecasting, but our stronghold is in prescriptive analytics. But in addition to that, we focus on making it really easy for not just the analyst, but for all planners and decision makers to use Ames. That's really where the main difference is, basically with almost all other analytical technologies. I think with that we're at the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for the attention and for all the questions.
So a big thank you to Marcel, and we hope you enjoyed all the information presented today. I think it was a nice indication that there were lots of questions, so there was, I think, a huge interest. So we will be sending out a link of the video within the next week, so you can be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, you can check our latest supply chain blog by Chris Gordon, who is elaborating on this topic a bit more. Also, during the presentation, I chatted to you that we have our brochure directly available in the control panel. If you have any questions for Marcel after this webinar, feel free to reach out, and don't forget to submit your challenge if you have any. You can also, of course, go to the Ames website, and in the resources section, we have some case studies and white papers available. As the last thing, right after this webinar, you will see a survey with a few questions. We would be very grateful if you can provide us with some feedback for continuous improvement. I would like to leave it like that. So thank you again, and have a great rest of the day.